She sat barefoot in a glass box the size of a small kitchen, legs crossed like she was meditating at sunrise rather than imprisoned on the flagship of the Galactic Empire's high enforcement fleet. No one knew her name. Not really. The Jaloran called her Prisoner 8894 Earth. The Chuktar referred to her as the Unbound Female. The Fasari, more careful with labels, simply said, the one they gave us. She had been captured, or rather delivered, 2 days prior. One human. No weapons. No fleet. No demands. Just a soft-spoken woman in a worn combat uniform with the insignia of Earth's now silent diplomatic corps stitched carefully at the shoulder. A white flag without the flag. And she smiled too much. That bothered them most. Your kind begs for surrender, sneered the Jaloran diplomat, his 3 tongues folding over themselves as he hovered just outside the transparent cell. Yet they send you. Are they truly so backward they think charm is a strategy? She looked up from her seat and blinked as if she hadn't noticed he was there. Oh, I thought you were one of the waitstaff. The translator paused for a moment, uncertain if the sarcasm was a glitch. You don't seem very worried, said the younger alien technician, a violet-skinned Yallo from the outer colonies. His voice trembled as he adjusted the scanner around her. I am worried, she said gently. For you. The diplomat made a huffing noise. Do you know where you are? Sure do. She lifted a hand and tapped the inner glass wall with her fingernail, letting it ring. High orbit above Gathra 9, on the Empire's mobile enforcement dreadnought, designated Vengeance of Order. 67 floors, 20,000 crew, 7 power cores, and a failing dorsal coolant regulator no one's checked in 12 hours. Yallow's eyes widened. The diplomat growled, then turned, robe sweeping. Run the neural analysis. We'll see what kind of Earth spawn you really are. She gave him a wave. Careful. My last neurologist didn't walk out quite the same. It wasn't her threat that lingered. It was the tone. Flat, almost apologetic. Like she meant it. Like she'd seen it happen before. The Empire's upper circle had dismissed her as psychological warfare. A plant. A ploy. A Trojan seed. But now 2 days in, the doubt had grown like rust beneath polished steel. Why did she surrender so easily? Why had no one from Earth contacted them? No demands. No rescue. No retaliation. Just her. Waiting. Clarabelle North. Not that she'd said it aloud. Not that they'd guessed. The name still lived only on encrypted Earth files buried behind unbreakable firewalls. Major Clarabelle North, Strategic Operations Division. Codename, Baba Yaga. Her brainwave activity spiking, whispered Yallo later that afternoon in the control center. But there's no pattern. It's symmetrical. Like she's broadcasting something. Broadcasting what? The Chuktar commander demanded. That's just it. We don't know. It's not data we can read. She's bluffing. She's smiling. Back in the cell, she stretched slowly, vertebrae popping as if she had all the time in the galaxy. Her skin was pale in the overhead fluorescence, but there was strength in her arms, her shoulders, not a soldier's bulk, but a coiled elegance. Controlled. Dancer's balance, sniper's stillness. The diplomat returned with a half-dozen guards this time. They circled her like she was made of explosives, not skin and cloth. You've been deemed high risk, he said, voice clipped. We'll be relocating you. She stood. That was all. Just rose. A slow unfurling, like a lion waking from sleep. The guard stepped back. The diplomat straightened his sash. You will tell us your mission. She tilted her head. It's strange, she said. How much effort you spend pretending you're in control. He flushed a darker shade of green. You speak as if Earth is anything more than a writhing anthill, flattened and forgotten. As if your species, your pathetic planet, has any relevance at all. She studied him. You know what's funny? He snarled. What? You think I'm here alone? That night, Yallo couldn't sleep. Something had crawled into his mind and refused to leave. The way her eyes flicked once to the ceiling when he asked about her heart rate. The way she muttered numbers under her breath that turned out to be star coordinates. The way she touched her temple once, and 32 sensors across the ship blinked in sync for half a second. He ran a deep diagnostic and paled. Each beat of her heart matched a pulse in the ship's magnetic stabilizers. It wasn't coincidence. It was Morse code. The next day, the Fasari arrived. They did not speak aloud. They hovered like jellyfish above the glass, long tendrils swaying in neural silence. One extended toward her mind and paused. She raised a brow. "You sure?" The Fasari scanned, then recoiled. For a moment, the entire floor's lights dimmed. The Fasari pulsed once with color, deep red, and fled down the corridor. Later, a report came in. Subject has no central emotional alignment. No detectable panic. No fear. No shame. No deception. Subject has built mental walls we cannot breach. Subject does not resist. She waits. On the command deck, the Chuktar leaned in. "What are we holding?" The Jaloran didn't answer. Instead, they watched the glass cells feed. Clarabelle was whistling now. A low old Earth tune. Slow and mournful. Yallo recognized it, though he couldn't say from where. Maybe a recording in the archives. Maybe something older. She turned her face to the camera and spoke softly, as if to herself. "Once upon a time, there was a house in the woods. It walked on chicken legs, and children feared it. But the witch inside, she didn't eat them. She warned them. She whispered, 'Run home.' But they never listened." She smiled, then mouthed, "I am the house." Across the dreadnought's lower decks, a dozen systems flickered. Not failed, just paused. Then rebooted. Slightly changed. Slightly off. Yallo opened a panel in engineering and gasped. Inside, printed across a diagnostic screen, was a single human phrase. No one had typed it. "Beacon active." The Jaloran Council called an emergency meeting. "She's just a woman. She's not just anything. We have to terminate her. Now. She's broadcasting something we can't trace." "Then block her. Mute her." The Chuktar commander turned, suddenly pale. "You think she needs a voice?" Back in her cell, Clarabelle adjusted her hair, cracked her knuckles, and sat again. The glass door unlocked with a hiss. No one had pressed a button. She didn't move. Just sat there, waiting. The Fasari reappeared with a final report. They hovered in solemn silence, projecting a single phrase into the minds of all present. "She is not the prisoner." And in that moment, across the galaxy, in systems the Empire thought locked down and secure, 300 human stealth ships came online. No alarms. No announcements. Just quiet flickers across starfields. Clarabelle blinked once and smiled wider. Yallo whispered, "She's the lure." The Jaloran diplomat shouted, "You said she was disarmed." Clarabelle raised one eyebrow and tapped her chest. "Didn't need a weapon," she said sweetly. "You gave me one." The dreadnought's lights turned red. The glass door hissed open again. No alarm sounded. No guards entered. Just silence, the wrong kind. The kind that creeps in sideways, unnoticed at first, until you realize it's everywhere. Until you realize it's happening to you. Clarabelle stepped out of her cell as if she'd been summoned, barefoot still, hair loosely tied in a knot that somehow looked like a crown. Her Earth uniform hung off her frame like it remembered battle, but hadn't bled from it. She glanced once at the two surveillance drones above her, both powered down, optical ports flickering. "I suppose this is the part where I'm escorted somewhere important," she said, her voice laced with something warm and unforgivable. The Chuktar commander met her in the corridor, armor tall and gleaming, twin blades folded at his back, breathing like a war drum. He stiffened as she approached, yet she offered only a soft nod. "Do you require chains, Commander?" He didn't answer. "Didn't think so," she said, breezing past him, as though the hallway belonged to her. In a way, it did. In the bridge, the Jaloran diplomat was sweating, something they weren't supposed to be able to do. A bioluminescent oil now slicked the ridges of his faceplates, pulsing green to crimson. The control deck was in chaos. Dozens of alien officers scrambled over blinking terminals, some speaking in frantic clicks, others in neural bursts that left ozone hanging in the air. 17 ships, one voice shouted. Human registry. Unmarked transits, no origin trails. They bypassed our sentries. Every long-range comm relay just rebooted. Clarabelle strolled in, hands clasped behind her back. "Y'all look busy." The Jaloran spun toward her. "Explain this." She tilted her head. "Explain what?" "That you were watching the wrong stars." The Chucktar's eyes twitched. "She warned us." "No," she corrected gently. "I invited you." The Fasari hovered in the far corner, whispering to each other in pulses of psychic color. The tallest among them dimmed to black. "She was never our captive." Clarabelle sighed and sat in the central seat, the Admiral's chair, without permission, without pause. She crossed her legs, her fingers dancing across the glowing arm console, not typing, just sinking. The ship didn't resist. The ship knew her. "I'm not here to conquer you," she said, chin resting lightly on her knuckles. "I'm here to demonstrate." The Jaloran slammed a clawed fist on the console. "You were captured." She chuckled, soft and sharp. "No. I was gift-wrapped. You just didn't check the label." A junior officer screamed. "She's overriding the navigation hub." "Already did, sweet pea." Systems began to fail, not crash, but drift. Temperature controls rose 0.5 degrees. Gravity fields trembled slightly, just enough to make the crew doubt their footing. External defense turrets spun without orders. Inside the observation dome, the stars flickered, then reorganized. "She's rerouting the whole ship," someone muttered. Clarabelle tapped one finger on the console and brought up a view. 17 sleek, obsidian black Earth vessels surrounding the dreadnought. They weren't flashy. They weren't large. But they were too close. Way too close. Inside the minimum reaction radius. Close enough that if one fired, the dreadnought wouldn't even get to say goodbye. "What do you want?" the Jaloran finally asked, his voice brittle now. She looked at him kindly. That was the most terrifying part. The kindness. "I want you to think," she said. "I want you to think real hard about how many assumptions you made. How many times you laughed at Earth. How many times you told yourself humanity was emotional. Primitive. Barbaric." She stood. "Y'all forgot what kind of animals we are." Elsewhere on the ship, chaos spread like an idea. Yallo, the technician, huddled in the systems bay, trying to keep up. "She's not accessing systems," he whispered. "She is the system." "She must have implants," someone said. "No. No metal, no signal threads. She's doing it with her heartbeat. Every pulse is a command." The Chucktar leaned against the wall, staring at a flickering readout. "You know what they say about Baba Yaga?" he asked no one in particular. "She lives in a house that walks. She eats those who wander too far, but only if they're fools." One of the engineers stammered. "Baba Yaga is a myth, a human fairy tale. Then why does she wear its name?" They fell silent. Above them, Clarabelle was walking the bridge like a sermon, one calm footstep at a time. Every movement shifted control. Every breath seemed choreographed with the AI pulse. "I read your files," she said. "You monitor over 8,000 human media broadcasts daily. Did it ever occur to you we wanted you to think we were ridiculous? That sitcoms and awkward diplomats were camouflage?" She turned to the screen and pointed. "Those ships outside? Not crewed. Remote-controlled. AI-driven. We didn't come to kill you." The Jaloran blinked. "Then what is this?" "A warning," she said. "But you're not listening." In the Empire's far-off core systems, news began to flicker in. Outposts offline. Trading routes frozen. Comm buoys turning themselves toward Earth frequencies. No known virus. No traceable attack. Just a quiet flip of power. And behind it, one face. Clarabelle's. A diplomat on the outer rim choked on his drink as he watched a feed of her standing on the dreadnought's bridge. "She was a POW," he whispered. She smiled at the tribunal. His aide said, "Sir, she's not smiling anymore." On the vengeance of order, Clarabelle stood beside the Fasari, who shimmered with unease. "You looked into my mind," she said softly. "Yes," it replied, its tones like sonar over still water. "Then you saw what's coming." It pulsed with reluctant color. "Yes. Then you understand." "Yes." She turned back to the others. "Humans don't send diplomats when we mean peace," she said. "We send people like me when we're past that." She raised her hand, and the surrounding human vessels all powered down, silent, still, ominous. "Let me tell you what's about to happen," she said. "We're going to leave. But you won't forget this. You'll try to explain it, dismiss it, say it was sabotage, say it was Earth acting out. But deep down, you'll wonder if I was the only one." She leaned forward. "You'll be right to wonder." The Jaloran tried to compose himself. "You said you weren't here to kill us." "I'm not." He exhaled. "I'm just here to teach you how easy it would be." Then she smiled. That smile didn't warm. It warned. Yellow, watching from the system's deck, said aloud what the others wouldn't. "She's not the beginning. She's the middle." And then the stars flickered again. Every ship in the quadrant paused, powered down, and changed direction. Not toward Earth, but away from it. The last image the Empire saw before the dreadnought's feeds went black was Clarabelle North, hands folded neatly in front of her, whispering something the translator caught only in pieces. "You thought we were the fire, but we're the smile before it." The silence didn't just fall, it settled. Like snow on bones. Clarabelle North sat once more in the Admiral's chair. She didn't move, didn't blink. The only sound was the soft hum of systems bending around her, reshaping like metal remembering fire. She wasn't issuing commands. She was the command. Her presence wasn't permission, it was protocol. The Chuktar commander stood near the viewing deck, watching the distant human fleet hang like dark punctuation marks on a vast galactic sentence. He hadn't spoken in 7 minutes. For a warrior who'd survived 8 sieges, 3 rebellions, and a homeworld civil purge, that was telling. Yallo, the technician, still watched her from the system's bay, fingers trembling over blinking panels. Readouts had stopped making sense hours ago. Clarabelle didn't trigger their systems. She redefined them. Input no longer flowed through keys or neural commands. It flowed through her. He whispered, "She's not in control of the ship." Pause. "She is the ship." Clarabelle exhaled slowly, like a teacher disappointed the test had been too easy. "You know," she murmured to no one in particular, "when I was little, my uncle used to say, 'Never smile at a dog you can't put down.'" The Jaloran diplomat was pale now, his faceplate glistening with stress secretions. "What are you?" "Polite," she said. "Usually." The Fasari pulsed deep violet in the background. "You allowed yourselves to believe the lie of weakness. You drank it like wine." Clarabelle nodded. "And Earth let you. We spoon-fed you our sitcoms, our dumb presidents, our memes about coffee addiction and emotional trauma. Gave you just enough static to dismiss us. Ever wonder why your analysts never found any clear pattern?" The Chuktar turned, slow. Because the pattern was the point. Clarabelle looked at him, this time with something like respect. "Good boy." The diplomat slapped the console. "We offered you peace." Clarabelle smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "No. You offered us absorption. Same as you do to every culture that doesn't kneel fast enough. We spared your worlds." "No," she said gently. "You misread the silence." Then, without touching a single thing, she brought up the galaxy's internal communications web. Screens unfolded like petals, light reflecting off her eyes. Across all known Empire systems, 6,000 worlds, 200 million orbital facilities, trillions of terminals. Her face appeared. And one message. Operation Folktale is now complete. Phase 2 authorized. Human strategic directive. Don't make us come back. The Chuktar staggered back. Clarabelle leaned forward, resting her elbows on her knees. "Let me explain something simple. You were never meant to hold me. This wasn't a prison. This was a spotlight. And you walked right under it." A young alien aide gasped. "You wanted to be captured." She raised an eyebrow. "Took you long enough. But the torture, the scans." She held up a hand. "Sweetheart, I've trained in interrogation since I was 14. Everything you saw, I let you see. Every probe, every scan, every accidental data leak. It was all calculated. You've been playing chess against someone who invented the board." The Jaloran shook his head. "You're lying." Clarabelle nodded to the screen. The 17 ships surrounding them vanished. Not jumped. Not cloaked. Just ceased. as if they'd been shadows all along. No heat signatures, Yaga whispered from the control room. No mass. No engine trails. Clarabelle didn't even glance back. Those weren't ships, she said. They were projections. Decoys. What you thought was the threat. But the real game. She smiled wider. It's already over. The bridge lights dimmed. The ship's internal gravity lifted momentarily, just enough for pens to rise, for stomachs to twist. Yaga screamed from below. The navigation core is reversing. We're being pulled. Clarabelle rose, slow and graceful, as if the entire galaxy wasn't tilting beneath her. You wanted to show power, she said. We showed you restraint. The Jaloran stumbled forward. What do you want? Clarabelle turned to face him fully. To teach. He laughed, manic and shrill. Teach. What could humans possibly teach the Empire? Fear, she whispered. A low rumble echoed through the dreadnought. Every screen blinked red, just once. Then silence again. Yaga's voice came through the comms. You need to see this. Clarabelle stepped aside. The viewing window cleared. Outside, orbiting quietly above Gathera 9, now floated a ring. A human ring. Not weaponized. Not broadcasting. Not moving. But unmistakably there. Black metal. Sharp. Carved with languages from Earth's oldest myths. It hadn't been launched. It had grown, spun silently in the shadow of the Empire's own calm grid, feeding off its pulse, riding the backs of its satellites like a parasite with manners. A soft ping sounded. The ring sent one message. Classified node online, Baba Yaga confirmed. Strike network tethered. The Chuktar fell to one knee. Clarabelle didn't smile this time. Her expression softened, but her voice sharpened. You thought Earth was sending a message. She stepped forward, glass cracking under her heel from the ship's internal shifts. We were the message. The Jaloran's voice broke. You're bluffing. You wouldn't risk all this. Clarabelle interrupted gently. We're not here for revenge. She looked up. We're here for rehearsal. Another ping. The human ring pulsed once. Not a weapon. A signal. And then every satellite orbiting the dreadnought broadcast the same message, on every frequency. This was a kindness. Inside the ship, several control panels began self-wiping. Not erasing data, rewriting language. Human alphabets began blooming across alien systems. The dreadnought's AI went silent, then rebooted. Clarabelle raised her hand and caught the diplomat's eyes. You never understood the trap. He whispered, What trap? She leaned in close enough to whisper, breath warm. The trap was the smile. Then the walls pulsed. Just once. And every planet in the surrounding system went dark. A soft ripple of blackout, not destructive, but total. Communication. Gravity sinks. Light fields. Null. A hush as deep as space itself. Clarabelle walked to the center of the bridge, spun once slowly, and sat down cross-legged like she had on day one. The Fasari flickered, terrified. What happens now? Clarabelle looked out the viewing deck. Now, she said softly. And just then, across the Empire's most guarded systems, a second ring blinked online. And then a third. And then a fourth. She didn't look back. She simply said, Now the sky changes. No one spoke for the first 5 minutes. Not on the dreadnought. Not in the Imperial Core. Not in the Council of 9 Stars. Silence reigned, not because they didn't have words, but because all the words they'd ever known suddenly seemed too small. Clarabelle sat alone on the bridge floor, legs crossed again, hands resting in her lap. Around her, the mighty warship Vengeance of Order no longer obeyed its masters. It obeyed her, or more precisely, the code behind her, the one they had let into their veins the moment they brought her aboard. Above the ship, the ring still hung in orbit, now fully awake, now fully connected. Dozens of Empire satellites blinked into sync with it like iron filings aligning around a magnet. Not forced, not hacked, drawn, willingly. The Chuktar commander, normally stoic, gripped the railing with white-knuckled desperation. We've lost the relay system. The Jaloran diplomat turned to him, his composure threadbare. How much? All of it. Clarabelle looked up, brushing dust from her shoulder. You know how many languages Earth has? The Choctaw didn't answer. Neither did anyone else. Over 7,000. Most of them dead. You ever wonder why we kept them cataloged, even the ones no one speaks? She rose slow as smoke. Because we don't forget where we came from. Even our monsters have names. The Fasari drifted near the ceiling, quiet for once. Observing. Recording. It was learning, too. Clarabelle moved toward the central control podium. She didn't touch it. Didn't need to. The system pulsed to her nearness. Screens blooming like petals unfolding to the sun. I was trained for this, she said, almost gently. Not the fighting. Not the hacking. The listening. On the largest screen appeared a map of the galaxy. 12 bright points lit up across the Empire's territory. They weren't explosions. They were seeds. Clarabelle turned her head. You thought we planted weapons. We didn't. The Jaloran backed away. Then what did you plant? Hope, she said. And memory. We sent archivists, storytellers, refugees, human and otherwise. People you discarded. The Choctaw's voice was hoarse. You're saying there are human bases? She shook her head. There are human ideals. Hidden inside every colony you've tried to erase. One by one, the 12 points grew in brightness. Then changed color. Green, blue, white. The old Earth colors for renewal, justice, and mourning. On distant worlds, statues of Empire officers fell without force. Colonies renamed themselves in languages not spoken in 1,000 years. Children awoke to new alphabets scrolling across their classroom walls. The Empire hadn't been conquered. It had been rewritten. Clarabelle turned slowly to face the crew. Did you think we'd meet you on your terms? With dreadnoughts and declarations? She tilted her head. No. We met you the way you'd never expect, inside your own story. Yallo, watching from the system's bay, whispered, How long has this been happening? Clarabelle answered without needing to hear him. Since the first time you laughed at Earth. The diplomat's hands trembled. You've changed nothing. Clarabelle stepped toward him, her gaze steady. We changed everything. She looked up to the stars. Your war was always about erasure. But we don't need to erase. We preserve. That's our power. A message pinged across the dreadnought's mainframe, scrolling in every known dialect. The galaxy will not be ruled. It will be remembered. Then movement. In the distance, on the far side of Gathra 9's rings, the sky blinked. At first, it looked like a flare. But it kept growing. 3 more rings appeared. Then 6. Then a network. Orbital halos connecting silently across space, forming a web of influence no weapon could destroy, because it wasn't a weapon. It was a story, one told without speaking. Across the galaxy, systems shut themselves down, not in panic, but in choice. Entire sectors refused to obey Empire protocols. Automated fleets spun slowly in orbit, confused and leaderless. Back on the bridge, Clarabelle closed her eyes. You wanted to turn us into myths, but we made ourselves folklore. The Choctaw commander swallowed. What do you want from us? Her eyes opened again. For you to sit down and listen. A beat passed. Then another. And slowly, hesitantly, the Choctaw sat. So did Yallo, watching from afar. The Fasari dimmed its color to deep navy and hovered in stillness. And at last, even the Jaloran lowered himself into a seat, eyes wide with something between awe and fear. Clarabelle stepped back and sat with them, forming a quiet circle at the heart of the dreadnought. No more commands. No more threats. Just presence. You don't have to fear us, she said. Just understand us. Outside, the galaxy shifted. Empires crumbled without a shot fired. Treaties reformed themselves. Children learned history in new tongues. And across every screen in the Empire's remaining strongholds, the same broadcast looped. A woman, barefoot, calm, smiling. The trap had never been the ships, never been the hacking, never even been her capture. The trap had been the smile. Because that's what they remembered last. Clarabelle turned once more toward the viewing window. "The next time you see an unarmed human walking toward you," she said, voice almost a whisper, "ask yourself, is she the message or the one who sent it?" The stars outside blinked, and the galaxy, for the first time in an age, held its breath.